Alright, so this one is gonna be a little weird. I don't have a script at all. I have an idea of the things that I want to say, and I don't know if this will ever see the light of day, but it's something that I feel very strongly about, and I don't know how I'm gonna turn this into a video, but the whole idea of what I want to do is to talk about things that I feel very strongly about. The production value on this one is going to be abysmally low compared to the other videos, which is already really fucking low, but thank you for bearing with me anyway. Dark Souls 2 gets a lot of shit. Some of it is understandable, others I think that you're bad at game. Of the three Dark Souls games, 1, 2, and 3, Dark Souls 2 has a distinct, unique advantage with conveying a certain feeling, a certain tone that the other two games just do not have. And that is what it means to go hollow. In Dark Souls 1, there was the hollowing mechanic. There was reversing your hollowing and your humanity and all that stuff, and it was largely ignorable. Unless you were trying to do very specific things, or you were playing PvP, or you were a much better player than the average person. But for the most part, going hollow was not something that translated to gameplay in any capacity. You just looked like a human made of beef jerky when you were hollow, and that's it, right? The idea was that when you personally, when the player gave up, that was when you went hollow, so to speak. When you were demoralized enough to put down the controller to never turn the game back on again, and never beat it again, that was when you went hollow. That was when your player character went hollow. Dark Souls 3 hollowing is a distinct mechanic for the secret ending, quote unquote secret at this point ending, where you have to get free level ups, and then like after you talk to an NPC amount of times he dies, then you go do some other NPC side quest, and then you beat the game and do a thing, and then the hollowing is specifically a narrative, not mechanic, but it's a progress bar for how far you are along in a certain quest line, and once you have all of the dark signs, then you do the thing and you beat the game with that ending, right? Also, once again, it was just mainly a cosmetic effect on your character. Nothing changed. You just look like you're made of beef jerky again. Dark Souls 2 hollowing, however, was significantly more impactful on the way that you played the game. Not only did it affect the way that your character looked, it affected your overall health total. And I understand that it's really punishing to remove a player's maximum HP every time that they die, making consecutive lives harder. But that feeling of, oh god, now it's going to be even harder, and consecutively making it harder and harder and harder on the player for every run, for every boss fight, right, without using a human effigy. And then, like, eventually when you run out of effigies, or if you're, watching your slowly dwindling supply of human effigies, like, disappear, right, that feeling of losing conviction to keep going, of giving up, of getting so frustrated and wanting to go, alright, I'm done, I can't. That very oppressive feel, the very oppressive atmosphere of that mechanic conveyed, I think, is fucking magic. We could talk about how the world layout is supposed to be like implying that the world is falling apart, things have been around for too long, that things have been this way for way too long, and things should have ended, or things should change, things need to change, right? Not just in a, kingdoms rise and fell on this spot countless times. No, the world is genuinely falling apart and tearing at the seams because of what has been going on for this long, right? We could talk about how that's conveyed through the map layout, and how I genuinely do love that. But I think that the most important thing that specifically the health mechanic conveys is that things suck. Things are bleak and horrible. This is, you even, like, once you hit that point, you can't escape. It just gets worse. Death is not the end. Death is just a speed bump. And the game gets harder and harder to reinforce that. I think that's genius. Now, I understand that people didn't like that feeling. I don't know. Since games are art, I argue that, you're allowed to feel bad. Not every game has to be a power fantasy, and you could make Dark Souls 2 into a power fantasy if you're good enough, but there's something amazing about a game that is just extremely depressing. Even when you beat it, you don't feel like you've done anything good. Maybe you feel accomplished, because you climbed that mountain, you beat the game, but say you link the fire, it's not this grandiose thing like it was in Dark Souls 1. The cycle keeps going. And with no fanfare, you end up back in Majula, and the only thing that you have to do next is start Journey 2. So you walk away from it, you're walking away from it. You don't know what's happening there. And there's a little bit of fanfare with that, but that's also an ending that was added with Scholar, which is the definitive way to play Dark Souls 2. Yes, I am aware. But it's a rejection, and you don't know what happens next. And that's fine, but, you still end up back in Majula with Begin Journey 2 as your option in the bonfire menu. I don't think that any other game has ever been as effective at conveying how depressing and horrible and run down and genuinely excruciating it is to have to keep going when everything is telling you that it's awful. You cannot escape through death. You can only make the game worse for yourself. You can only make the experience worse for yourself by dying. Until you give up. In Dark Souls 1, there was no slow progression of losing your mind, of becoming hollow, in game at least. There was definitely that when you died a million times and you had gave up and walked away and came back, right? But there was no mechanical progression system to that. You were always at full health. So you didn't so much as drift into it, you just got annoyed with the mechanics of the game. You got annoyed with the way that you were playing and you fucked off. Dark Souls 2 conveys that you're actually losing a part of yourself. I don't think any of the games have explained hollowing in a better way. And I think Dark Souls 2 is magic for that. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.